The Striker AR is undeniably the most used and popular assault rifle in Chapter 5 Season 1, but does that mean it's overrated? Well, I'm here to argue that it might be, and here's why. Despite being chosen by 74% of you guys, the Striker AR is more similar to the Nemesis and Enforcer than you might think. Thanks to the ability to use these new weapons in creative mode, I made extensive testing, diving deep into the details. This video won't scratch the surface of the ARs, it's a detailed analysis of these guns. As a bonus, I decided to fully examine some of the attachments usable for assault rifles. Spoiler alert, two of them are kinda useless. Let's explore the recoil patterns of each weapon first. Our goal is to identify the most predictable pattern and determine which one has the tightest bullet spread, commonly known as the spray box. Additionally, let's see which assault rifle offers the best headshot potential based on its recoil pattern. Through numerous tests, I carefully observed how each gun reacts when fired without any recoil control. To ensure fairness and consistency across the board, I only used the unmodified gray versions of the weapons. The initial test involved firing without aiming down sights, while subsequent tests used ADS. The Striker AR, shown on the left, rapidly moves upward, particularly towards the head at a 10-meter distance. Although it performs good at this range, its effectiveness diminishes with greater distances, as we'll soon see. Comparatively, the Nemesis shows a recoil pattern resembling a compact box centered on the target, with minimal bullet dispersion at 10 meters, a tight and stable pattern. The Enforcer recoil pattern resembles that of the Striker AR, but with a wider lateral dispersion, making it less predictable overall. While it also moves upward, it does so in shorter bursts compared to the rapid ascent of the Striker. Now, observe these spray boxes, each representing a different firearm. Can you discern which belongs to which? On the left, we have the Striker AR, the middle corresponds to the Nemesis, and the box to the far right represents the Enforcer. Two key observations here. The Nemesis has the smallest box, indicating the most predictable pattern. The Striker maintains consistent placement on the target, even reaching the head, which is noteworthy, and the Enforcer displays the largest and least predictable spray box. Shifting our focus to a 20-meter distance while aiming down sights, we notice that the Nemesis is the only AR lacking headshot potential at this range. Both the Striker and Enforcer tend to cluster around the head region. Examining the spray boxes again, in the same order as before, Striker, Nemesis, and Enforcer, we observe a pattern similar to the previous test. However, this time, the Striker's pattern is more vertical, often surpassing the head compared to the Enforcer. Once again, the Enforcer's spray box is the largest, while the Nemesis maintains its compact and predictable pattern. Moving to a 30-meter distance while aiming down sights, the Striker's recoil trajectory noticeably extends above the head, indicating its struggle at longer distances. Given that many engagements in the game occur beyond 30 meters, this limitation is significant. The Nemesis, on the other hand, maintains a steady pattern, with no bullets straying outside the target area. The Enforcer appears to excel at headshots within this range, though its performance may diminish beyond 40 meters. Analyzing the spray boxes at this distance, we find that the Striker has the highest box, while the Nemesis retains the smallest. It's worth noting that the Striker performs the least accurately, followed by the Enforcer and then the Nemesis. It's evident that engagements beyond 30 meters are more manageable with the Nemesis, a testament to its predictability and stability. The Enforcer proves suitable for long-range engagements, with its pattern improving at greater distances. The Striker's shortcomings for long-range combat mean significant recoil control and a preference for tap fire are necessary for success. In summary, considering all factors, the Nemesis AR emerges as the superior choice in terms of recoil pattern among the three. It convincingly leads in this comparison. Another critical factor to consider when evaluating weapons is the TTK, or time to kill. Essentially, it measures how quickly a weapon can eliminate an enemy, quantified in seconds. When facing an opponent using a weapon with a slower TTK than yours, your odds of winning in combat instantly rise. While DPS values provide valuable insights, they are just numbers on paper. What I want is to obtain concrete results through extensive testing. According to a chart sourced from fortnite.gg, the Striker leads in DPS, followed by the Nemesis and then the Enforcer. This suggests that the Striker potentially offers the fastest time to kill. Let's confirm if this holds true. I made a minimum of 50 tests for each weapon, varying conditions by using no attachments, equipping the muzzle brake, adding the vertical foregrip, or employing both attachments, all while adjusting distances between 10 and 30 meters. Also, roughly half of the tests were performed while aiming down sights, with the remainder executed without. Let's kick off with the Striker AR. The fastest time to kill I recorded was only 480 milliseconds. Yes, just half a second to take down an enemy with 0 build health, totaling 250. That's incredibly fast, let's not kid ourselves. Of course, this was a one-time occurrence, it doesn't happen often. Keep in mind, this was also a stationary target, and in a real match, they are nowhere to be seen. Nevertheless, I still believe it's the best method of measurement, because if the target were moving, the numbers would likely vary widely, and we wouldn't get a true idea of which gun has the best TTK. On average, it took 1.21 seconds to eliminate the target with the striker. The average is certainly a more dependable metric to analyze in my opinion, as it provides the typical time it takes to down an enemy. Let's also remember that the longest time to kill in this experiment with the striker was 3.03 seconds. Now let's compare with the Nemesis AR. Its TTK isn't as impressive, with an average of 1.76 seconds. That's essentially half a second slower. So in a 1v1 scenario where both opponents start with 250 HP and one has the striker while the other one has the Nemesis, most of the time the player with the striker will emerge victorious. Not every time, but the majority. The Nemesis' quickest time to kill was 1.36 seconds, while the slowest was 4.16 seconds. Did you notice that the absolute best TTK for the Nemesis is slower than the average of the striker at 1.21 seconds? This further supports the likelihood of the striker winning 9 times out of 10 in a 1v1 against the Nemesis when the distance varies between 10 and 30 meters. And what about the Enforcer AR in all of this? Well, let's say that the stats are pretty similar to those from the Nemesis AR. It ranges from the lowest at 1.38 seconds to the highest at 6.96 seconds. I wouldn't be too concerned about the last number since it was the result of not aiming down sight and at the longest distance, which is not a very common scenario. What we need to focus on is the average, which sits at 1.80 seconds. This is very close to the 1.76 seconds we had previously with the Nemesis, but still trailing by more than half a second compared to the striker. It's worth noting that the variation between the lowest and highest TTK is the largest out of all 3 weapons, so this means the Enforcer is the least consistent assault rifle when it comes down to time to kill. Where does this leave the Nemesis and striker? Well, we clearly demonstrated that the striker has a significant advantage in terms of time to kill, but it would be interesting to see if these numbers would follow the same pattern if we tested distances over 30 meters. With all confidence, it's fair to assume that the longer the distance is, the variation of TTK would increase significantly with the striker, and the Nemesis would be more stable. When we consider all factors combined, it's tough not to give a point to the striker when we talk purely about the time to kill. Before we declare the best AR in the game, let's review the attachments available for these types of weapons and identify the most effective ones. To be frank, there are 2 attachments that are rather useless, and you'll soon find out which ones they are. The vertical foregrip attachments is meant to reduce the recoil and spread of its weapon, but we need to see it in action to verify its effectiveness. Starting with the striker AR, the first test showed the AR without the attachment on the left, while the vertical foregrip was added on the right. At a 10 meters distance, it's challenging to discern any difference. I would even say it's negligible. We also tested it while aiming down sight, and even then, it seems that this distance is too close to observe any significant impact. However, when we extended the distance to 30 meters, we noticed a slight difference. As you can see on the left side, the recoil rises slightly higher than on the right. Additionally, upon closer inspection of the white dotted lines in the middle of the crosshair, they appear to expand over time without the attachment. It's a subtle difference, but it definitely exists. Transitioning to the Nemesis, we noticed minimal variance at a distance of 20 meters, even when aiming down sights. It becomes more apparent at greater distances, such as 30 meters. Upon close observation, we observed a headshot on the left side, whereas none occurred on the right. This is attributed to the vertical foregrip's ability to reduce recoil slightly, preventing it from rising to the head. However, to ensure this wasn't an isolated incident, we carried out a similar test with the Enforcer AR at 30 meters. Upon comparison, the difference was negligible. The Enforcer's unpredictable recoil pattern made it challenging to discern any significant impact. The effect was more pronounced with the Nemesis. Having considered all factors, is the vertical foregrip truly worth it? Well, it's a nuanced answer. It depends on the specific gun you're using and the distance from your target. In many cases, the difference will be subtle, while in others, it may barely register. It's not necessarily a must-have attachment, but it does offer a slight improvement, though inconsistently. Let's delve into the speed mag attachments, which reduces reload time. Theoretically, the animation should be faster with the attachment, so let's see if the difference is significant. It turns out the reload time difference between both scenarios was around 470 milliseconds on average. Breaking it down further, the Striker AR had a difference of 400 milliseconds, the Nemesis had 460 milliseconds, and the Enforcer was 560, so it's evident that the attachment delivers on its promise. But consider this, how often do you really need a faster reload time while using an assault rifle? Most of the time when you're reloading, you're probably already behind cover, waiting for your next move. Is it really such a big deal to save half a second in that scenario? I personally don't see why. I can understand the need for a quick reload when using SMGs or during intense battles. In those situations, a rapid reload can make a significant difference. However, in long-range engagements, the need seems less crucial. Do you agree that speed mag attachments is useless for ARs? Let me know in the comments, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. What about the angled foregrip attachment, which is supposed to reduce the ADS time? Well, the difference with the Enforcer was rather small, being at 10 milliseconds. On the other hand, both the Striker and Nemesis were pulled 30 milliseconds faster with the attachment on. Yes, it's such a small difference, right? That's what I think as well. I just can't see how a 30 milliseconds difference to pull up your AR faster makes a big impact in a fight. Even if this was with SMGs, I would still feel like the difference is minimal. So as for ARs, I'll definitely conclude that the angle for grip attachment is not worth purchasing at all. Let's examine the impact of the muzzle brake now. What we need to observe is the recoil pattern, as the attachment should help reduce the bounce between shots. When using the Striker at 10 meters, the one on the left is not aiming down sights and without the attachment. The recoil goes up to the head, as you can see. When the mod is added, it doesn't rise higher than the neck area, so there's a small difference for this comparison. What if we decide to aim down sights at that distance? The difference is again noticeable, as the muzzle brake won't kick higher than the torso region, while it ascends to the neck without it. I would assume that the longer we are from the target, the bigger the difference it makes. Well, after trying at 30 meters with a Striker while aiming down sights, it's very hard to notice a real difference. We see both patterns go up to the head and around it in this example here. What about the Nemesis now? We chose 20 meters this time, and yes, if you take a close look, the recoil on the right barely reaches the upper torso, while it almost goes up to the neck on the left. Once again, it's a subtle difference but can make a difference at very long ranges. We're not gonna ignore the Enforcer, so here's the results. We can clearly notice the recoil going above the head and sometimes missing the target, while the one with the muzzle brake on the right side cannot seem to go higher than the head. So here comes the obvious question on everyone's mind right now. Is the muzzle brake a good attachment to have on any AR? I would say yes this time, because the results show a bigger difference compared to the vertical foregrip. I would even add that it's the best attachment we reviewed so far. Finally, let's determine the best assault rifle before wrapping up. We will compare all options based on distances and your playstyle. If you were paying attention earlier in the video, it was clear that the Striker AR was definitely shining in short range fights. Also, its TTK makes it even deadlier when you are up close and personal. When it comes to medium range, I would say the easiest to control was the Nemesis, but if you are skilled enough to handle the Striker, then go for it. The Enforcer wasn't as good in medium range. So, is it the best for long range then? Given the consistency and stability of the Nemesis across all types of scenarios, I'll give the point to it again. The Enforcer comes in second place here, while the Striker is pretty hard to control at very long distances. What about playstyles? If you are an aggressive player that pushes the majority of the time, then I think the Striker is your best fit. Not only it is super fast, but you usually engage your battles closely, which is dominated by the Striker. For a conservative player that prefers to push at the right time only, then the Nemesis will be your best option because it's a jack of all trades type of weapon. It's going to serve you well at any time. For a veteran seasoned player, then go for the Striker. What about noobs or brand new players? Then the best AR would be the Nemesis without a doubt. So what is the best AR? I would say the Striker and Nemesis are tied and have to share the spot of being the best AR in this current meta. Sadly, the Enforcer is not a bad option, but it just can't keep up with the other two. What is your favorite AR, by the way? Leave it in the comments down below. And also, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much, and comment boom. Make sure to check out this next video here because this is the one you'll definitely enjoy the most from my channel.